Hello everybody, welcome to today's video. And today we're going to be writing equations from a table. And whenever we're doing this today, we're going to be needing our graphing calculator. So I'm recording my Chromebook screen. To get that graphing calculator to show up, let's look at the bottom and open up the TI-84 app. Alright, so here it's going to tell you the steps for how you put the data into your calculator. But before you do that, let's not forget that we need to remember that we need to change the settings of the calculator so that it gives us everything that we need. And to change the settings, we click the Mode button. And then we're going to look for Stat Diagnostics. The Stat Diagnostics setting is automatically on off, and we're going to turn that on. It looks like we'll have to use the arrows for that. Push Enter to change the setting from off to on from the Stat Diagnostics, then push Second and quit. Anytime you're given a table and you need to turn that table into the equation, the only way you get the correlation coefficient, which the correlation coefficient is going to tell you how strong that data follows that equation. In order to know how strongly, how accurately the equation that the calculator is going to give you is for the data, like maybe the equation is like super rounding and it's not that close to the actual data points, because whenever we put these numbers into the calculator, it's going to give us the most accurate line of best fit that's possible for these. Or, in our case, it's going to be a quadratic best fit curve. Once we put these numbers into the stat, in the edit, we're going to put the x's for list 1. We'll go to the right one space so that we were in list 2, and we'll put the y's. -3, -2, 7. If you're ever given a table of numbers, you should probably put that table into your graphing calculator in the stat and the edit. Then you'll need to read the question. The question is going to tell you whether you want to do a quadratic best fit or a linear best fit. Today's video is just about quadratic, but on the star, sometimes you have to do it for linear also. So once you have the numbers in your table, you'll push the stat button again, which takes you to this screen. You'll push the right arrow, and then we'll just go down. And since we're doing quadratic functions today, we'll go to quadratic regression. We need to make sure that our x's are in list 1, our y's are in list 2, and then if that's true, then we can just go down to the calculate and push enter, and here is the equation it gives us. Y equals, we're going to put this number for a, 1.75 times x squared, plus this number times b, 7.25x, plus this number for c, which is a -2. And it's giving us an r squared of 1. Normally it would give you an r and an r squared, but in this case it only gave us r. Okay, so let's put the equation y equals y equals 1.75x squared plus 7.25x minus 2. This r squared value is 1, which means that it is actually a perfect r number. That means that these data points are perfectly matching this equation. To make sure that that's true, to check that, because this says if r is equal to 1, a value of 1 is the maximum that's possible, then that means that this should be perfectly accurate. So let me just type this equation into y equals, and we're going to check this. All right, I typed the equation in, but in order to make these data points also show up, I can make these data points show up on top of my graph, because right now it's just going to show the curve, but if I want the data points to show up, then I'll push second and y equals, and then I'm going to turn on the plot. So I'm going to push enter, and all I have to do is push the on button, and it automatically takes from list 1 and list 2 our x's and our y's. So all I had to do is push second y equals, and then push enter, because I'm going to go into plot 1, and I just turned it from off to on. Now for these squares, it put the data points from the table, and you can see that it is matching perfectly. All right, now that we've checked everything, let's just go to the next one that we can do together, the next example. It wants us again to find the quadratic equation that matches the graph. So let me open up my stat, and I'm going to clear out these old numbers from the last question. So I just go to the top, I push the clear, and then I push enter. Go to the top, push clear, and push enter. And it deletes all of the old data. Now we just need to put -2, 0, and 1 for x, and 4, 5, -11 for y. List 1 are the x's, list 2 are the y's, or the h of x is the same thing as y equals. This is the same thing as the y values. We'll push stat, we'll go to the right, do a quadratic regression. Make sure that this matches up. It normally doesn't change on its own, but sometimes you'll push the wrong button and make it change for you. And we have -5.5 for A, -10.5 for B, 5 for C, and it says r squared is also 1. If you use the calculator by hand, which you will do on the STAR test, you're going to be using the physical calculator when you come to take the STAR test. It would give you an r squared, and it would also give you an r. The only difference is r squared takes the normal r and it squares it. Okay, but let's just write this equation down right here. Y equals -5.5 for A, -10.5 for B, plus 5 for C. Done. The r value is 1. I'll leave these other two for you, but let's just make sure that these steps actually do match. So if we push stat, we push enter on the edit, and then we need, for a quadratic, you have to have at least 3 data points. You're going to put the x values in L1 and the y values in L2. Then, after you have your numbers in here, you're going to push stat, you're going to go to the right, over to the calc tab, and then you go down to the number 5, which is quadratic regression. You make sure that you have your x's in list 1, your y's in list 2. You go down to calculate, and there's everything that you need. Complete those questions and these next few questions, and you'll be good for the day. The last thing I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to show you how on the physical calculator it gives you something different than r squared. I'm going to type in the numbers here, and on the physical calculator, we push the mode button. We're going to scroll down, and we still have to turn the stat diagnostics on. And then, whenever we calculate, it looks exactly the same. Let's see if it gives you an r if it was linear. Okay, so apparently we only use r if it's linear, and we'll use r squared if it's quadratic.